Happy Father's Day!
Go. Okay. When I was little, my dad called me Tugboat.
When I was little, Dad called me Termite. Dad also called us Brat, Bratty Brat, and Bratty Brat Brat. And for years, Liz and I argued over who was Bratty Brat and who was Bratty Brat Brat.
One of my favorite memories of Granddaddy was when I was really small, really young. Probably one of the earliest memories I have of Granddaddy. We were at a Cracker Barrel. I'm pretty sure it was a Cracker Barrel, and it was back when you could still smoke in restaurants. And there was a guy at the table next to us who was smoking, and he kept sticking a cigarette over, and it was blowing right over into my face and onto the table. And I don't know if Granddaddy had asked him to stop before he did it or not, but I just remember Granddaddy reaching over and ripping that cigarette out of his hand and throwing it on the ground and stomping it out. And that's something that I've always remembered, and that's always stood out to me. You know, Granddaddy was always taking care of his family, taking care of the people that he loved, and that's always been something about Granddaddy that I've really admired.
My favorite thing about going to Granddaddy George's house is that whenever I ask him, he'll let me change the channel, and there's a swing in the living room.
He used to always take me to Baskin Robbins.
Okay, George is like a father to me. You know, I lost my father a lot of years ago, and George is always there. I could always borrow a tool. If something went wrong with my car, something went wrong with my house, George was always somebody I could go to and ask, hey, what happened? How did you fix this? Here's what's going on. What's your idea? You got any thoughts? He could wire a playhouse in a day. He can, change the engine in a car. He's done all those things that as I needed to do them, he was always there to help me do them. Like talking to him, a lot in common with George. You know, we're both engineers, both a little bit geeky probably, but we just really have a good rapport when we talk. And you know, I know he enjoys talking about some of the things that I enjoy talking about.
Who has a swing in their living room?
One day he was talking, it was after Charlie had made the famous Oreos on the living room carpet, and he just looked at him and smiled and said, that's Bratty Brat's brat. So I knew I was Bratty Brat.
One of my favorite memories of my father is when I was a little girl. He always worried about my birthday being on Christmas Eve. And I think he always thought I was shortchanged. I didn't know about, Christmas Eve and Christmas and, budgets being tight or, when I was a little girl. I just knew that Christmas was my birthday. So one year he decided that we should switch birthdays. And so he let me have October 3rd and he took Christmas Eve. And I always appreciated that he took so much trouble to be worried about that I was getting shortchanged on my birthday. Of course, we switched back because it was just too confusing for me. Just couldn't, understand it. But it always meant something to me that he cared so much about whether I had a good birthday or not. And I always got something really nice in the summer because he always thought he needed to make up for it. Like a stereo or a bedroom set or a party or something like that. Be about it? Okay.
He used to always buy me eyeglasses every year and take me to the doctor.
Another one of my favorite memories was Christmas when I was 8 or 9, I'm not sure. And we, earlier that week, we had been out to a dirt bike shop because Granddaddy was buying a dirt bike for my older cousin. And I remember being really jealous because I wanted a dirt bike, but for some reason I was invited to go, and I went to go buy the dirt bike or to look at the dirt bike with Granddaddy. And then when Christmas Eve, we were up unwrapping presents at Mama Jean and Granddaddy's, and I got my box and unwrapped it and opened it up, and there was this big red dirt bike helmet. And I remember being kind of angry and really confused and thinking, why in the world would they buy me this dirt bike helmet, And they're buying Buddy a dirt bike. And then I didn't get it until I went outside and saw that Granddaddy had bought me a dirt bike too. And that was one of my favorite Christmases and one of the best memories that I have. And Granddaddy, I hope you have a wonderful Father's Day. I love you, and Hannah loves you, and we miss you, and we hope we can see you really soon.
I want to thank you for teaching me how to use tools. One of my first memories is of me and Liz sitting on the master bedroom floor in the house on Helena Drive. and you were framing in, I think it was the shower or the bathtub. Anyway, you were building the master bathroom. And Liz was building a house out of the blocks where you had cut off the 2x4s. And I took your carpenter's pencil and drew a face on a block and then used your hammer and nailed it together and made myself a little man.
When I think about my father, I think of someone who's really hardworking, who was always there for me. He could fix anything. Thought he was the smartest man alive. Pretty sure he is still.
But most of all, what I like about George is he brought Liz into the world and he raised her, and she's the best thing that's ever happened to me.
Something that I think that I take after my dad in is that we both love animals. He always loved dogs and taught me to love dogs too. He'd go way out of his way to help an animal, and I feel like I do that too.
He put up a basketball goal in his front yard for me, and
one of my favorite memories is when I was very little. I crawled up in Granddaddy's lap and asked him to go on a date with me. I knew exactly where I wanted to go for dinner, and I wanted him to take me to buy a toy afterwards. Granddaddy never would disappoint. Love you and hope you have a great Father's Day.
One of my favorite things that you taught me was to brand everything I own. I know that Liz and Mike and I, and even you, have our own stories of how that has come in handy and helped us identify our belongings, but I can't help but smile every time I see a can of orange paint because it reminds me of you, Dad, and how you painted Ferguson with that orange paint on all your
One
teeth.
thing about my dad is I could always count on my dad to be there when I was in a situation of trouble. My car would break down, going back and forth to college, and sometimes, the car didn't always work, or I'd run out of gas, or you'd always count on him to meet any need I had. And later, when I had children, I knew that I could leave them with my father, and that they would be well taken care of, and they were doted on and played with, and you pulled them in wagons, and put the swing up in the living room, and they could swing right in the living room, and they never ever didn't want to go to my father's house. He made it a fun place and a safe place and a place I knew I could count on, and so I just love him for that.
he always knew what would make me happy, and I love him, and I want to wish Happy Father's Day.
Hey, Granddaddy. Happy Father's Day. Hope it's a good one for you. Love you.
I want to thank you for teaching me the basics of wiring my house and fixing all the plumbing and anything else I needed for home repair, and then telling me to forget it and play stupid and act like a housewife and not embarrass my husband. One of the lessons that I learned was make sure you have the key to the front door before you leave the house. I remember when you bought the house on Cheney Thompson, we went over to look at it and didn't have a key because we bought it at auction. So we had to break in through the bedroom window, which we did, and climbed through and unlocked it and came back, and we looked around the house and walked around. And after about 30 minutes, we figured out what we needed to do, and we left the house. The last thing you did was turn around and lock the front door. So we had to break in again.
My favorite thing about Granddaddy is definitely all the cool things he can do. I thought it was so cool growing up when there was lights in the cabinets and sinks in the bedroom so you could brush your teeth right there. You didn't have to walk to the bathroom. And I just love that there's wall outlets in the middle of the wall so he doesn't have to bend over. And I think it really inspired me to become an engineer because I had this great example of what an engineer was, and I just wanted to do all the cool things that Granddaddy could do. And I just want to say I love you, Granddaddy, and Happy Father's Day.
I just wanted to take a minute to say thank you, Dad, for everything that you've done throughout the years for not just me, but for all of us, for your whole family. I know we're not the perfect family, but I do appreciate it all, and I do love you, and I'm glad that you married Mom 60 years ago and that you had me, Mike, and Liz. And I thank God for you every night in my prayers. Happy Father's Day. I love you.
I love my dad. I'm really, really proud of my father. And I'm glad to be his daughter. I hope I've learned from him many, many things. And I hope I've made him proud. And I'm glad to celebrate this Father's Day with him. I hope to celebrate many more on Father's Day. Happy Father's Day, Dad. I love you.
You're done.
Happy Father's Day, then, Daddy.
All right, on this Father's Day, I would just like to oh, I can't.
Keep going. Try it again. Just start over. Just start over.
Okay.